As everyone expected, a liberal jury, at the encouragement of a liberal judge in liberal Manhattan, has convicted President Trump on 34 counts. The first time in American history that a former president or major party nominee, in this case Trump is both, has been prosecuted and now convicted of a crime. For 234 years, Americans have refrained from prosecuting presidents for all sorts of reasons. Democrats just blew that up, and we can never undo the damage that they have caused to our political system. We will get into the details and what it all means moving forward. But first, a little personal anecdote. When President Trump first debuted that Make America Great Again hat during the 2016 campaign, I bought one immediately. The red hat eventually became the favorite, but initially, Trump's MAGA hat of choice was white, and I bought one. An OG MAGA hat, probably from the very first run on his campaign website. I bought it not because I was totally 100% sold on Trump as a primary candidate. It was just because I liked the sentiment, and I liked a lot about his campaign. And the hat, like the campaign, was refreshing and weird and fun. Today, however, the Trump campaign is much more than that. Donald Trump is no longer the entertaining tabloid fixture running for president on a lark. Circumstances have developed such that Donald Trump is fending off the full force of the corrupt liberal establishment of the hegemonic global power that is willing to burn our political order to the ground in order to govern the ruins. If he was not already, Trump is now a world historic figure. I don't think that's what he was signing up for when he came down that golden escalator in 2015. I don't think it's what most people expected his campaign to lead to. But sometimes history calls people to prominence. I voted for Trump in 2016. Then I voted for him with even greater enthusiasm in 2020. Now, I will crawl over broken glass to vote for the man in 2024. And I suspect there are many people over the past 24 hours who feel precisely the same way. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. One of President Trump's lawyers is going to join us in just a little bit to discuss the historic conviction, what it means. Is the president going to go to jail, prison, I suppose? What does this mean for the other prosecutions? What does this mean for the election? We will talk about that shortly. First, though, we got to talk about Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles. Once again, Pure Talk is investing in their customers with their own money and without charging you an extra penny. Pure Talk is now providing international roaming to over 50 countries. As you plan your summer travel, make sure your wireless provider has you covered at home and abroad. Pure Talk already puts you on America's most dependable 5G network, but now they're offering coverage in over 50 countries as well. Enjoy the freedom of unlimited talk, text, and ample 5G data for just $20 a month with Pure Talk. Not only is their U.S. customer service team ready to assist you with a seamless switch, they also have fantastic savings on the latest iPhones and Androids. Are you ready to make the switch? Join my cell phone company, Pure Talk. Start saving today. puretalk.com/Knowles, Knowles, to explore their offers. When you make the switch, you will enjoy an additional 50% off your first month. Do not miss out on the opportunity to save on wireless at home and abroad. That is puretalk.com/Knowles, puretalk.com/KNOWLES. President Trump's response was pretty much exactly what you would expect. Except that, we've come to expect it because Trump is a tough guy and he knows show business and he knows how to communicate. But imagine you are in this historic position. The entire weight of the liberal global establishment is coming down on you. They're trying to make you die in prison. They're trying to not only steal an election from you by locking you up when you should be campaigning, they're trying to make you die in an orange jumpsuit. And you have to come out and give a response. Nothing like this has ever been seen in the history of the United States, the greatest, most powerful nation in the history of the world. And when you add all of that, the fact that this man kept a stiff upper lip and just looked his enemies right in the eye and just told him exactly what he thinks is even more impressive than many people appreciate. Here's what he said.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end, and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one, with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Lots of courage. She's totally right. Put that aside for a second. This is really, really sharp political rhetoric. Trump is a master of political rhetoric. When that MAGA hat came out, I was speaking with some friends of mine, and I said, without really any irony at all, "Make America Great Again" is an example of poetic diction. It's really smart political word choice. Make America great again. These are largely Saxon words, sturdy words, evocative words, short, easy to understand. And Trump is really good about that. He doesn't speak like he's giving a university lecture when he's on the campaign trail. He can speak in a more elevated way. There are plenty of old interviews of Trump where he's speaking in a more elevated way. But when he's on the campaign trail, he speaks in a way that is easily and immediately understood by everybody. And that's what he's doing here. How many times did he say the word rigged? 10 times or something? It's rigged. This was rigged. It's a disgrace. This was disgraceful and rigged. What they're trying to do is rig the election. They rigged this trial. It's disgraceful what they've done to our country. They rigged it. It's a disgrace. So the takeaway, if you watch that 1 minute clip or however long it was, you're taking away two words, and they're the two most important words. Then they're the two words that Trump wants you to remember. Now, there are some other points that he gets in there. This is a political prosecution. This is a Soros-backed DA. This is a completely unfair venue. I wasn't judged by a jury of my peers. Half the country, more than half the country, wants me to be president. In this district where they pulled the jurors from, 95% of them hate my guts. This is totally unfair. It's historic. It's a disgraceful day for America. We've never seen anything like this. We're going to keep fighting. That's another word that pops up a little bit there. Fight, fight, fight. Looks him in the eye. It's far from over. Disgraceful and rigged. And I am certain that that is what people take away from this. As good a response as you could possibly expect from the man under these circumstances. Now let's turn to the worst response that I saw to the conviction of Trump. That would come from Larry Hogan, supposedly the governor of Maryland, Republican governor of Maryland. He's kind of a squish. He is effectively kind of a Democrat governor of Maryland, one of these never-Trumper guys. And here's what he tweets out.
Regardless of the result, I urge all Americans to respect the verdict and the legal process. At this dangerously divided moment in our history, all leaders, regardless of party, must not pour fuel on the fire with more toxic partisanship. We must reaffirm what has made this nation great, completely surrendering like a bunch of cuckolds.
Oh, sorry, no, that's not what he said.
What has made this nation great? The rule of law.
The rule of law? The rule of law? They're going to prosecute Donald Trump in New York for a misdemeanor the statute of limitations for which has already run out in 2019. They're going to prosecute him for a federal crime in the state of New York for some reason. They're going to upend 234 years of our legal tradition to prosecute a former president and a current leader of the opposition. Then the judge is going to tell the jury, you don't even need to agree on what crime he committed. If you think he did anything wrong ever, you can pretty much send him into an orange jumpsuit. Now we got to protect the rule of law. Where were you 2 months ago? Where were you 6 months ago? Where were you where were you 8 years ago when the federal government wielded the Department of Justice, when Barack Obama and the Democrats wielded the Department of Justice to illegally spy on Trump's campaign and to cook up a bunch of evidence with the Democrats and Russians, ironically enough, to undermine Trump's campaign? Where were you, Larry Hogan? Oh, you were campaigning with a bunch of other never Trump jokers. This is the line from Larry Hogan and all the other squishes and cowards. The line is that it is very, very important for Republicans at this moment, when our opponents are attacking us and threatening the country, it's most important now that we surrender. Because, imagine hypothetically how much worse it would be if we were ever to wield political power. If we wield political power even in a just way, well, then maybe hypothetically in the future, Democrats will wield political power in an unjust way. Wouldn't that be terrible? Yeah, gee, Larry, can't imagine what that would look like. Good thing we didn't prosecute Hillary, huh? You remember at the time, 2016, lock her up. The liberal establishment pulling their pearls off their necks. They say, this is such a threat to the rule of law. We can't prosecute former presidential candidates. Oh my goodness, that would be such a threat to the rule of law. Good thing we didn't prosecute her. Why then could you imagine what the Democrats would do when they got into power? Can you imagine? I think you probably can imagine. I think we all can. Absolutely pathetic. It's amazing. These two responses, the one from Trump, the one from Larry Hogan, exactly the opposite in terms of their clarity, their ability, their persuasiveness, and their virtue. Trump, this is a disgrace. It's rigged. It's a disgrace. We're going to fight. This isn't over. I don't think I'm being hyperbolic when I say the composition of Trump's speech, which may have been extemporaneous, even has some similarities to the writing of Abraham Lincoln, by which I mean Lincoln would use simple words that people were familiar with, phrasing that people were familiar with, largely coming from the King James Bible, also perhaps from Shakespeare, which were the two works that he was most familiar with in his largely self-guided education. He would speak that way. And you just read the Gettysburg Address, that nation, the last full measure of devotion, it's this kind of diction that just hits you. It's repetitive. It lands the message. That's what Trump's doing. And he's very clear, and it's very moral language. And then you get this quisling Larry Hogan. Actually, guys, I know they're about to haul us all off to the gulag, but let's kind of be nice to them, and maybe they'll give us an extra lollipop when we get to the camp. Give me a break. What a coward. Anybody who gives any quarter to these people they are anathema. Get them out of my party. Not that they're much good to the party, not that they've ever been much good to the party as it is. Okay, when you want to make yourself feel just a little bit better and prepare for a real political campaign, you ought to treat yourself to some Good Ranchers. Go to goodranchers.com, use promo code Knowles for an exclusive Father's Day treat. You got to go check out Good Ranchers. They have just unveiled their limited edition King Cut, available only for this special occasion. The King Cut box is packed with thick-cut bone-in ribeyes, center-cut filet mignon, and thick-cut bone-in New York strip, all sourced from local family farms and aged 21 days to perfection. Good Ranchers is offering free bacon for life with any new subscription. Just use that code Knowles, KNWLES, to receive 2 packs of Good Ranchers uncured applewood smoked bacon with every order. You will not just get free bacon this year. You will get it next year and every single year after that. If you need any other good reason to support Good Ranchers, they're not only fabulous partners for this show, they also support the paralyzed veterans of America. Every order saves American farms and supports American veterans. Also, I don't think I can highlight this enough. It's just the best meat you're going to get, and the price cannot be beat, and they keep giving you free stuff, and they support great causes. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they're still in business, other than so many people are signing up to try it out, and you certainly should too. I just adore this company. GoodRanchers.com, code Knowles. Get their brand new King Cut box for a dad you know. Subscribe to any of their custom boxes for yourself. Promo code Knowles. That is GoodRanchers.com, promo code Knowles. I have no idea how much money President Trump has raised. Let's just check. I'm going to check right now. I do not donate to political campaigns all that often. I occasionally do, but I generally do not. I save my donations for causes outside of the partisan political arena, generally. Last night I donated. I wrote the biggest political donation check I've ever written in my life by a lot. And I think many of you did too, because the Trump fundraising site actually crashed. I'm looking for updated numbers. I can't see anything. Trump page crashes. Trump guilty verdict fires up Republican donors who pledge millions. How many millions? It's just not even being reported yet. Because I'm seeing some numbers from the mega donors. Robert Bigelow, who's already given over $9 million to an outside group supporting Trump where there are no campaign limits, says, I'm sending President Trump another $5 million, as I promised him. Okay, I see the $5 million, the $9 million, the $1 million, but the number I want to know probably will be reported within the next 12 to 24 hours, the small dollar donations. Because you go on that Trump campaign website, which was totally redone yesterday to just accept the fire hose of money that was pouring in, so much so that it broke the website. And the donations were not $5 million donations. It was $50, $100 donations, $20.24 donations for people who, especially in Joe Biden's economy, don't have a ton of extra money lying around, giving what they could. And it was just pouring in all these different names, all from all over the country. It's good. It's good for the campaign. They're going to raise a lot of money. It's good politically for Trump in that the vast majority of Americans recognize these prosecutions are politically motivated. There was a poll that came out some months ago related to the federal case, not the New York case, but the New York case was even more ridiculous than the federal case. So I think the principle would hold, which showed that 62% of Americans say that these prosecutions are primarily politically motivated. 62%. So that's not just Republicans. That's Republicans and that's independents and that's some Democrats too, who admit, yeah, Joe Biden's just trying to imprison his opponent because he's afraid that he's going to lose in November. What this does for Trump is it proves that. It underscores that already very popular sentiment. And it does something that a lot of people thought was impossible. Trump runs in 2016 as an outsider. Trump cannot run in 2020 as an outsider because he's already the president. He's still a little weird in our political establishment, but he can't run as an outsider. Then in 2024, Vivek Ramaswamy, who did extremely well in the Republican presidential primary, given he had virtually zero name recognition going into it, he said, look, I am running as an outsider, but you can only run as an outsider once. And that was a good point, and he's generally right about that. Under any even remotely normal circumstances, he's right. You can only run as an outsider once because then you're kind of in it and then you've got some practice at it, even if you don't win the election. And so you're no longer really an outsider. Except in this case. Except in the historic case of the American liberal establishment trying to throw you in prison forever. That is as clear a signal as there can possibly be. No, this guy's still an outsider. This guy is still not in the club. We're still not going to invite him to our parties. We're actually going to, if this were 100 or 200 years ago, we would banish him to St. Helena. That is how much we fear his political rise and what it means for our comfy, corrupt liberal establishment. He got that back yesterday. He didn't exactly have that for several years now. He got that back. I think Dan McCarthy, my friend, excellent political columnist, wrote a column on just that point. I only skimmed the headline. There's a lot of commentary coming out right now about what happened last night. He's a political outsider again. And that's attractive to a lot of people who recognize that this establishment is very, very corrupt. So corrupt that we would, for the first time ever in history, throw the opposition leader into jail on trumped up, pun intended, charges that that probably the sitting president, almost certainly the sitting president, could not even tell you what they are. Now, speaking of money, CNN is going to break with tradition. We're just breaking all sorts of political traditions this week. CNN, is hosting that presidential debate in June. I guess President Trump still won't be wearing an orange jumpsuit for that one. CNN is going to buck tradition, though, and air commercials during the presidential debate. So usually the presidential debate is run by the Commission on Presidential Debates. This year, Joe Biden says, I don't want to do that, the Commission on Presidential Debates. And I don't want to follow their debates because, one, their debates are a little bit later in the year, and I want there to be widespread mail-in voting and early voting much, much earlier so we can sort of rig the system. Two, the Commission on Presidential Debates invites a crowd, and the crowd hates me. I can't get 5 people to show up to my rallies, so Trump fills up stadia. So I don't want that either. I want it to be rigged a little bit more in my favor. So he proposes the CNN debate. And Trump accepts because Trump smells blood in the water and he says, all right, whatever you want. You can rig the rules however you want. Put us on a stage. Put me in, coach. I will tear this guy to shreds. CNN is going to run commercials. Why does that matter? It matters because it shows you the downside of privatization. For many years, Republicans were all in favor of privatization. We got to privatize this road. We got to privatize this government program. We got to privatize this. We got to privatize that. We've got to take power away from big government. Big government is evil. And we need to support job creators in the business community, entrepreneurs. Okay, yeah, there's something to that. There's a threat from government becoming too powerful and centralized and distant. Yeah. But there's a threat from corporate power too. And sometimes that threat can get even worse than the threat from the government. Perfect example, free speech. Our public square used to be governed by the public institutions, by the government. And we would have different rules that regulated communications across broadcast airwaves, different rules that regulated how campaigns could campaign, different rules that regulated radio, all the rest. Then we sort of deregulated, and then we privatized a lot of the public square. And so now who controls the public square? Google. And Google just suppresses conservative speech. And there's no accountability, and we can't lobby our representatives because the representatives are largely in the pocket of Google because Google has a ton of money, and there's not much to be done. We privatized the public square, and then conservatives were squeezed out of the public square almost entirely. That's not great. Do we really want to privatize the presidential debates? I don't know. I don't want the presidential debates to become some spectacle to sell more Nike sneakers. I don't want the presidential debates to be run by the advertisers. Advertisers have a lot to say over programming, and the advertisers are broadly liberal and unaccountable. I don't really like that idea. We used to have a sense that certain things are beyond the realm of commerce because man is not entirely or primarily economic. The state doesn't exist to serve the economy. The economy serves the state. We let the tail wag the dog now, though. But not everything in life is about money. Some things are above that. And the presidential debates were about the common good. Now, no, it's about filling up the coffers of CNN. And it's about selling Nike sneakers or what. I'm picking on Nike. I don't know if Nike is advertising. That's a problem. And it's one that's going to be difficult for some conservatives to point out because conservatives have been so fanatically in favor of privatization in recent years. Okay, well, has it been uniformly good? Maybe GDP ticks up a little bit, maybe. You've also lost a lot of your political rights in the process. Now, folks, let's talk about something that every man needs in his grooming kit. Because this is not a presidential debate. This is the Michael Knowles Show at the Daily Wire, and we have great products that we're making ourselves, like Jeremy's second-generation razors. They're bigger, they're better, they're blacker. Wait for it. They're an Amazon #1 bestseller. So you might wonder how my skin stays so manly and so soft and so supple. Well, look, even I need a great razor to keep this face silky smooth. Jeremy's second-generation razors deliver. This is also why, you ask, why did Jeremy's razors become the #1 razor on Amazon? Well, easy enough. Have you seen their model? Have you seen their sexy, swarthy, beautiful model? The face of Jeremy's razors? Go over to Amazon. You can check it out. While other razor companies are throwing money at woke ideology, Jeremy's is focused on one thing, making a great razor. The second-gen razors feature a new ergonomic handle for superior durability and sharper, longer-lasting blades. They are not made in China. Choose the brand new Sprint 3 for a quick, clean shave, or the new radically redesigned Precision 5 for an exceptionally smooth and close shave. Both now available on Amazon. Spend your money with a company that values quality over DEI compliance. Get your Jeremy's second-gen razor today on Amazon and shave like a man, not a manifesto. My favorite comment yesterday is from Joshua D. Geis, who says, Judge Mershon, right, everyone, please convict Donald J. Trump on whatever you want, and I'll treat you to ice cream with Joey. Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much what he said. So you hope that this would be overturned on appeal. Many legal experts have weighed in across the political spectrum and observed that this decision was completely absurd. But will that matter? That's the question. Will that actually matter? I am not so sure. I'm not sure the appeals court in New York is the most right-wing enterprise out there. There's one story I want to get to, and then we're going to speak to one of President Trump's lawyers and get his take on how this is going to shake out. This story is really important, though. Speaking of oratory, and that is a Kentucky high school has withheld a diploma from a speaker for praising Jesus. This story reported in the New York Post and Post reporting from a more local outlet, WXIX. Campbell County High School, Micah Price, was initially denied his diploma for saying this.
I must give the honor, the praise, and the glory to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Who in his very word tells us he is the light, he is the way, the truth, and the life. Class, anyone in the audience today, I'm here to tell you that if you don't have any of those things in your life, you can't seem to find the answer, that my Lord and Savior is your answer. He will give you the truth, give you the way, and the life.
Beautiful, beautiful remarks. I haven't seen the full speech. This is the clip going around. Lovely. And for saying this, the administrators at this high school, Campbell County High School in Kentucky, denied him his diploma for saying Jesus is the way and the truth and the life, and I want to give all thanks to Jesus here. He's denied his diploma for this. Now, they caught some bad PR. He went in. The young man has tried to make nice with the administrators. The administrators gave him his diploma. That's not good enough for me. This is so outrageous. I'm sure if this kid had gone out there and said, I support individuality and I support doing whatever you want, man. And we need to stand up for the LGBT LMNOP drag queen story hour community. And we need to support abortion and selling babies in the surrogacy industry. And all hail Satan. I'm sure that they would have given him his diploma on the stage. But no, he said something controversial. He said, thank you to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who is the way, the truth, and the life. Oh, you're not allowed to get a diploma if you say that. This is so disgusting what these administrators have done at Campbell County High School. I'm glad they gave the kid his diploma. That's good stuff. There needs to be a public apology from any administrator who was in any way associated with this decision. I prefer to see some firings. And I think we need to see some firings. And if not, I'm not a resident of the state of Kentucky. Or where is it, Kansas or Kentucky? No, Kentucky. Okay, I was right about that. But I'm pretty close to Kentucky. I'm right below Kentucky here in Nashville. We share the same airport most of the time. It seems to me that politicians, elected leaders in the state of Kentucky need to bring a lot of political pressure to bear on this high school, because this is not an isolated incident. This sort of thing happens all the time. The suppression of Christianity, of religion broadly, especially Christianity in the public square, happens all the time, because there's no such thing as neutrality on moral matters, and no man it can really be philosophically a vacuum. We have ideas and we act on those ideas. This is completely disgusting. It is contrary to the American tradition, the American way of life. This country was founded by people who called themselves pilgrims, who came here to found a shining city on a hill and a model of Christian charity. And then our founding fathers, who were a little bit more deistic and Freemasonic, even our founding fathers in that enlightened liberal age of the late 18th century, said this is a country built on Christian morality. John Jay said, thank God that we have a Christian country and we're guided by Christianity. public apology, firings, any consequences. The country is looking at you, Kentucky. Okay. Now, where are we looking the rest of the time? We are looking over in New York, which has upended our political tradition, which is why I'm so pleased that we have, back to the show, Jared Roberts, a lawyer for President Trump, who is very familiar with not just the details of this case, but many of the legal cases that the liberals have thrown at the president. Jared, thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So I don't have any formal training in the law whatsoever. I'm not sure that Judge Merchan in New York has much formal training in the law, for that matter. We've talked about the historic significance of this decision. What happens now? Is the president going to go to jail? What does this look like on appeal? How does this affect the election? And how do you speculate, from your familiarity with the broader Trump legal team, how do you speculate that the Trump team is thinking about this?
Yeah, so I don't think the president will be going to jail. There's a sentencing in the next few months, but I think it's unlikely. I mean, he's a first-time offender. New York doesn't like to send people to jail, as we've seen. Maybe the rules are different with President Trump.
Yeah, Jared, I hate to cut you off, but had President Trump gone up and robbed a liquor store, or gone into the subway and punched a woman in the face, or, I don't know, murdered someone in broad daylight on Fifth Avenue, as he once joked about years ago, then he wouldn't be in any jail for more than 5 minutes. He would be out probably without any bond. But that's not, he's a Republican politician who challenges the establishment. That led me to believe they were going to throw him in jail for the rest of his life.
Oh, exactly. No, New York doesn't prosecute real crimes. They only go after made up ones against Republicans. So naturally, the next step here is filing the notice of appeal. And I think on appeal, even though it is the New York system, I think that, I mean, the argument is there. Any other jurisdiction, it's a slam dunk case. We still don't even know what the underlying charge is. It wasn't on the verdict form for how this case was raised to a felony, because remember, without it being a felony, the statute of limitations expired, I think, in 2019. So they had to prove an underlying charge to raise this to a felony. They never described to us what that underlying charge was. The verdict form never described what the underlying charge is. I mean, I think it's a major due process violation that President Trump couldn't even defend against this. And that alone is grounds to reverse this. And so the jury verdict almost did President Trump a favor in not specifying what the underlying charge is, because, I mean, that's the easiest grounds right there for a reversal.
So what's your take on the New York Appeals Court? Because even the so-called rock-ribbed conservative jurists in America sometimes surprise us. Let's not forget it was a jurist who I generally like, Neil Gorsuch, who wrote transgenderism into civil rights law. So, you know, even the conservatives go squishy a lot of the time. I can't imagine the judges on the appeals court in New York are the creme de la creme, let's say.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I'm a former New Yorker. Luckily, I got out just in time. But, well, the judges might not be the best for this situation. I think any fair jurist would realize what happened here was wrong, that first, these charges should have never been brought. Then the jury instruction was faulty. The verdict form was faulty. The prosecution never actually proved their case. I mean, it's almost a slam dunk case that they have to get rid of on appeal. Otherwise, I mean, right now people are questioning the authenticity of our system. I mean, I certainly am. And without reversal here, I mean, I think the system is dead in the water as is, because it's such a slam dunk case that should be reversed.
So what does this mean? You're predicting, it gives me some relief, that they're not actually going to send Trump to prison. What does this mean for the other cases that have now been pushed until after the election? And what do you think President Trump is thinking?
Right now, I think the president is probably energized. I mean, the base is certainly energized. Going forward, there's a lot of campaign material, obviously. fundraising is off the charts. The website actually crashed, as you were alluding to earlier. I think that the president, my understanding is he was calm yesterday during the reading. I don't think it was anything that necessarily surprised him. He knows how the system is. And right now, the focus is just kind of getting to November 2024. That's when the real verdict from the American people will come, and dealing with the rest later. I think this has all been a distraction from the Biden administration. They know that they can't beat him at the polls, so they're trying to beat him in the courts and abuse our system. That's what this entire case was about. That's why there was a gag order in place. They wanted to keep him off the campaign trail so Biden could go out and raise money for his party, and President Trump had to stay in a courtroom all day. And so really at the end of the day, there's nothing to these charges other than the fact that the Biden campaign is freaking out that they're going to lose, and they need to essentially rig our system to prevent that.
Right. I love that line. I mean, sometimes people knock Trump and they say he gets distracted because, he'd tweet about Mika Brzezinski's face or whatever. But he's always seemed to have a pretty decent focus to me on where he wants his campaign to go. And you really saw that yesterday. He hit that line. The real verdict comes down on November 5th. That's the line, right? That's really what it's all about. All of these prosecutions in New York and D.C. and Georgia and blah, 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 wherever, they're not about documents. They're not about Stormy Daniels. They're not about a phone call to a Secretary of State. They're about November 5th. They're about the reason he's sitting in that courtroom is so that Joe Biden gets a campaign and a fundraising advantage. Not that he's doing all that much with it. It's all about November 5th. And so that's where you focus it. Not even the judge probably could tell you what this case is about in New York, much less the ordinary casual political observer. So what do you remind them? This is about election interference. It's rigging. It is disgraceful. But really, the only verdict that matters is November 5th. Jared, thank you for coming on. Greatly appreciate it. And hopefully we can have you back to celebrate when President Trump does not go to prison, and all the better when he goes to the White House, which is the shiniest, most beautiful prison in our electoral system. Thank you very much, Jared.
Thank you, Michael.
Finally, we've come to my favorite time of the week, when I get to hear from you in the mailbag. The mailbag is sponsored by Pure Talk. Visit puretalk.com/Knowles, KNWLES, to explore their offers. When you make the switch, you will enjoy an additional 50% off your first month. Take it away.
Hello, Mr. Knowles. I'm a longtime listener, first-time voice mailbag caller. I have a few questions related to your new magnificent product, Mayflower Cigars. While not a frequent cigar smoker, I do enjoy a stogie from time to time, and as such, when I saw your new product, I had to secure some for myself. That being said, I don't own a humidor or any proper storage mechanism, and right now, my cigars are just sitting in the box on my bookshelf. I'd be curious to know if you had any recommendations for reasonably priced humidors for the occasional cigar smoker. And also, given that one of the boxes that I ordered is a couple months old at this point, are the cigars in the box spoiled, or is there anything I can do to make sure that they can still be properly enjoyed as intended? I'd
Great
appreciate
questions.
Any advice that you have, and thank you for all that you do.
Excellent questions. No, your cigars are probably okay. We made sure to ship them, tightly wrapped plastic with some Boveda humidity packs, two-way humidity. So this is really the best way to keep your cigars humidified, whether it's in the humidor or some travel humidor or even a Ziploc bag. Your cigars are probably not in the best shape right now. If I were you, first thing I would do, take that whole box, shove it into a big gallon Ziploc bag. We've already got the Boveda humidity pack in there. Maybe open it up to see if it's totally dried out yet. But if it's not, just throw it in there, throw another pack in maybe, and then let it sit for a week or two. You'll be good. In terms of humidors, I don't know, maybe we need to bring out a Mayflower humidor or something like that. I get this question so frequently. Maybe we got to provide the answer to people. But simple stuff to look for. I don't have a particular brand that I'm going to recommend. You can get a humidor for $50 to $100. You can get a humidor for $10,000. There's a huge range. And the nicer ones generally do a better job, but all that we really need is a decent seal. You want the wood to be pretty good. Spanish cedar is the traditional one. I wouldn't necessarily do other kinds of cedar. Spanish cedar is really a totally different type of wood from other kinds of cedar, like American cedar. And Spanish cedar is really good for cigars. Other kinds of cedar are less good. But you could throw it in a little plastic cooler. You could throw it. You just need a decent seal. The good wood will help to age your cigars properly, but you don't need it to revive them. The process of rolling a cigar involves getting tobacco leaves wet and then dry, and then wet and then dry about 1 billion times. So you don't need to worry that you left it out on your counter and now they're totally gone. Just make sure you put them in a nice sealed environment, throw a little humidity pack in there. Frankly, you could do it even with a wet sponge or wet paper towel with distilled water, but the packs are probably easier. And then just let them come back to life, smoke them, and enjoy. Next question.
Hey, Michael. Love your show and got a question for you about PhDs or PhD candidates. I just recently finished my master's degree, and although I'm incredibly proud of it and happy that I did it because I learned a lot, my experience with PhDs was just abysmal. I came to find that not only are they just straight up progressive activists at any opportunity they can, they just seem to me unintelligent to the point to where they just use a lot of big and fancy words to describe a far left progressive thought that ultimately says nothing. So what's your opinion on PhDs? Do you think it's completely lost and all hope is gone in regards to receiving a PhD, or do you think it could still mean something in some way, shape, or form? Thanks, Michael. Love the show.
I feel the same way about PhDs as I feel about really any college diploma, or even specifically diplomas from the supposedly fancy schools, Harvard, Princeton, wherever, which is that it can mean that the person who holds the degree is intelligent and educated, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. I do know a handful of PhDs who are extremely intelligent, extremely well-educated, have piercing insight into all sorts of things in the humanities and the sciences and elsewhere. I'm very pro-education. I'm, I guess, in the minority of conservatives in that I think that an education, a liberal arts education, a classical education is a very good thing and ought to be pursued. And we shouldn't just chuck it to the side for apprenticeships and the trades. They have their place too, but liberal education can go hand in hand with that, and liberal education is very important. But I also know a ton of PhDs who are complete dummies, who don't know anything, who got their spots through affirmative action and DEI, and who haven't been taught anything other than liberal ideology and leftist ideology in their programs. So, it's just another case of you've got to look a little further. On the rare occasions that I'm in any way involved in hiring someone at the Daily Wire, which has not occurred for years at this point, I get the CV. I don't really look at the diploma. Maybe it's interesting to say, oh, so-and-so, I knew so-and-so in college. Oh, yeah, okay. Maybe if you went to Hillsdale, that tells me something. Oh, this person probably got a pretty reasonable education. If you go to Ave Maria or Franciscan or any of these more serious educational institutions, okay, that tells me a little something. But really, I have to look a little deeper. I want to see a writing sample. I want to have a conversation with you. The proof of the pudding, even today for PhDs, is in the tasting. It used to be a credential that could really signify something. It doesn't signify that anymore. Next question.
Hello, Michael. My question is about the devil, actually. And I know it's dangerous to think about the devil too much. We generally acknowledge his existence to remind us how much we need Christ. But my question is, at the beginning of time, a third of the angels, they decide to rebel against God. And being angelic intellects, angels don't make mistakes. They have this superhuman intellect. They know that God is God, right? And so what I'm curious is, what did they think they could win if they knew God was all-knowing and all-powerful? What standard of victory were they looking for, and why did they think they could achieve it, given that they were so smart they would know God was all-knowing and all-powerful? That's my question. Thank you very much. Love your show.
They were driven insane by pride, as we all are. Pride can cloud the intellect. You rightly observe, the angels are pure intellect, far smarter than we are. We who are both spiritual and intellect and mind, but also corporeal. So they've got us beat on the IQ, I suppose. But pride can cloud even a pure intellect, right? And that's what happened here. Some of tradition tells us that the angels had a foreknowledge that not only that God would create man lower than the angels, but that the second person of the Trinity, God the Son, would be incarnate and become man and be raised higher than the angels. And so one traditional explanation of this is that Lucifer resented that he would have to worship man who should be lower than him. But it's just even without that illustration, we all know that when we get really prideful, sometimes that's when we make mistakes. That's when we become blind. A traditional depiction of hell is that hell is blind. The blind kind of inferno. I quote Dante all the time. Dante makes this point. He uses that phrase, the blind hell, but also when he talks about heresy, he observes that heresy is a sin of choosing. Or heresy it comes from the Greek and it just means to choose. So heresy, it's not that you deny the entirety of the faith, it's that you choose one aspect of the faith and you ignore all the other aspects of the faith. That's what makes a heretic. And that comes from pride, the notion that I can interpret Scripture, that I can interpret the religion, absent the Holy Spirit, absent those whom God appoints and the tradition and the magisterium that God gives to us to help us understand His word. That would be the beginning of heresy, which is why it's a sin. It's not just an innocent mistake. Oh, oopsie daisy, I misunderstood something. No, you are presuming already when you take these sorts of matters totally into your own hands, and you say, I choose this, but I don't choose that. I choose St. Paul, I ignore St. James, or something like that. I choose the New Testament, I ignore the Old Testament. You're choosing, and that's a sin. And that's a sin that derives from a few different places, but at the top of the list would be pride. Okay, there's more voicemail to get to, and there's more written mailbag to get to, and there's Fake Headline Friday. The rest of the show continues now. You do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLES, at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.